As we do many times, we save the best for last. Just a few short announcements before we begin this morning's program. Firstly, everyone received hard keys to their room. Manual keys, Shabbos keys to their room. We must receive those keys in return, as it said on your envelope and in the emails that we sent. Apparently, they're worth a lot of money, to the tune of $100. So if everyone could please return it so we don't have to charge you that money. If you lost the key, you can let me know, you can let the front desk know, and we'll make arrangements. However, it's very, very important that we get those keys back. Of course, if you end up with them back at home and you forgot them, you can email us or contact us. We'll tell you how to get the keys back to us, but it's very important we get those back. Secondly, lunch will not be served or packed until the session is over. We're aiming to finish here at 12 o'clock. If it goes a few minutes over, lunch will wait for you. I know everybody's starving after this weekend. Someone asked me that next year by the conference that we actually weigh people on the way in and charge them according to pound that they gain on the way out. We're considering it. Our actuaries are on the case. Nevertheless, when you leave here, you'll check out. There'll be packed lunches to go to the car or to wherever you're going, packed sandwiches, different types of sandwiches, and the waiters will have them on your way out. I think that's it. Lost and Found, it's a big one. We have a facility, it's about 4 stories, it's in Clifton for Lost and Found from previous conferences. We have tefillin, we have everything that people left here. But if you did, please, again, look around for the things. If you can't find them, better to find them before you leave than to have to call afterwards, so just please check your belongings. This morning's program is an exciting program for 2 guests who actually did not join us over Shabbos. I told them that it was a really boring Shabbos. Everyone's hungry, and we're eager to get out of here. No, these are tremendous speakers and presenters from around the world that have joined us. But to introduce today's session, we've spoken an entire weekend about our branches and our heroes out in the field. One of those is Rabbi Simcha Tolan and his wife Tolan, who are here the entire Shabbos from Detroit. And to take it away, to take us through this morning's session to the finale of this year's conference, it's my honor to introduce to you Rabbi Simcha Tolan.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the final keynote session of the 2017 Partners Conference. Yossi, you did an incredible job. I actually felt a little bit like Abraham last night when I was sitting in the lobby, completely stuffed, and not one but 2 waitresses came over to me and said, "Could we get you anything?" And I looked around desperately, is there anything I need? My coffee was full, I had plates of food. And I said like Abraham said, Yesh li kol, I have everything. There is nothing I need. So Yossi, thank you so much for giving us everything we need this conference, from the physical to the spiritual. It's been remarkable. My name is Rabbi Simcha Tolan. I'm the Executive Director of Aish Torah Detroit, and I am super happy to be with you here on this Sunday morning. Because on a typical Sunday morning, I would be teaching Sunday school. So this is a great improvement. Thanks for having me. So in July of this year, the Aish Torah branches got together in Los Angeles. Aish Los Angeles hosted us in Big Bear Lake, and we met with Steve Berg, and Rabbi Berg told us, we are here for you, the branches. If there's anything you need, we'll take care of it. And we said, Rabbi Berg, since the Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Weinberg's passing, we have been like orphans without a father. With all the good that we're doing, we feel like a ship adrift at sea. We need to know that we have a Torah presence in the Beis Medrash, a Torah guide that we can ask our questions to. We need Rav Berkowitz's presence in the organization, in Aish Torah. And I'm sitting there on the couch, it's a very casual type of environment, and I'm thinking, boy, we are throwing Steve Berg under the bus. How is he going to get us Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz? Rav Yitzchak Berg, we complain, we get 100 emails a day. Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz gets thousands of emails. He's inundated by phone calls, and when he gets home at night, he literally has people waiting outside his door. He has organizations that he runs. He has a city that's after him all the time for different needs. How is Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz going to come and have a presence that's at all meaningful in Aish Torah? But in fact, he accomplished that. Today, Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz Shlita is a guide for Aish Torah. Steve Berg meets with him every single week. We as branch heads, if we have any questions, we email Rabbi Berg, and immediately we get a response. Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz's presence, as we heard, is in the yeshiva every single week meeting with students. And this has been transformational for Aish Torah. So this morning, it's a tremendous honor to ask everyone here to please turn your attention to the video screen for a special recorded message from Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz Shlita from Jerusalem. I've been told that I should do stand-up comedy for 60 seconds. I actually discovered in doing comedy that really everyone could be funny. It's just a question for how long could you be funny. You know, if you're going to pay $15,000 for a comedian, they'll be funny for about 40 minutes. You go to the $3,000 comedian, oh, we're good. I charge about $100. I can be funny for 10 seconds.
So you spent some time together. You've had a wonderful Shabbos together. Hopefully you're getting a sense of just what's really happening. You're getting a sense of something big here. You're getting the sense of a real movement. You're part of a movement to reawaken Jewish identity. For Jews to be ready to stand up and be counted as Jews. To know that our heritage is something that is alive, well, and relevant to our lives today. You're part of that movement because this was the dream. This was why Reb Noach set up Aish in the first place. The idea was not just to affect individuals. The idea was to start a movement, something big whereby every Jew will have heard of this, and every Jew is going to feel like being part of this, because without it, you're out of it. That feeling of Jewish identity, something that's worth taking a stand for, something that's worth letting everybody know, I'm Jewish and I want to be Jewish and I want my kids to be Jewish. This is what it's all about. Hopefully, you got the feeling of that momentum and you're ready to go back and not just live it, but share it and enlist others. Get everybody to know. Get the message back to everybody. The Jewish people, we are ancient, alive, relevant. We are a people like no other people. And you want every Jew to know this, to not in any way sell himself short, certainly not to be self-hating. Go back and take this message. I'm looking forward to working along with Aish and helping this grow, to grow more and more in today's generation, because times have changed a lot. The world has changed a lot in the past few years, a lot more than it did even in decades before. And because of that, the crisis is greater. Jewish identity is not necessarily so popular. And we've got to find a way to reach people and make them part of this movement. Every one of you can be an ambassador for this. Every one of you, regardless of how much you know about your Judaism. It's just the pride. You've got to be able to share with the others, share this with others and enlist them. And together we'll bring back the greatness of the Jewish nation, the nation that lasts eternally. The great Jewish nation founded thousands of years ago, that has included so many great individuals, that is responsible for so many great values that all of humanity has pretty much adapted. Be part of that. Be part of that and make it happen. And we look forward to the day that every Jew is going to be able to stand up and be proud as a Jew. Say, I am Jewish. Enjoy the rest of this conference and feel great. Okay?
So last night I was having a DMC, a deep, meaningful conversation. The kind you could have after just one too many glasses of wine. And Yisrael Schwartz walked over to me, the son of Rabbi Shalom Schwartz, and he said, you know, Simcha, I grew up always knowing that I am the second generation Aisher. Because you, Simcha, are the first second generation Aisher. And I said, really? Where do you live? He said, I live in Baltimore. I said, and what do you do as a second generation Aisher? He says, me? I work in a pharmaceutical company. I said, really, a pharmaceutical company? How could you call yourself an Aisher? He said, Simcha, are you kidding me? I host Shabbat dinners. I teach classes. I'm recruiting for programs. I'm an Aisher. And I said, Yisrael, you're absolutely right. Rav Noach Weinberg's vision was not to build an organization of people like me getting paid to do what we do. Rav Noach Weinberg's vision was a movement, as you just heard. And a movement is people like Yisrael, and a movement is people like yourselves that take responsibility for Klal Yisrael, responsibility for the Jewish people. Yisrael, you are so right. We are a movement, and every one of you is part of that movement. One such partner is Mayor Sherman. Mayor Sherman, who started what he called the Borough Park Village. It's kind of like a halfway house. From what I understand, it's like when someone's finished with Yeshiva in Jerusalem and they're ready to move back to New York and start life. There's an adjustment period, and that's where Mayor and the Borough Park Village comes in, with job placement, housing assistance, and transition into normal life. There's got to be a joke there. When Borough Park becomes a transition to normal life, that's remarkable. Mayor, that's amazing. But seriously, Mayor, and you and your village represent part of Aish Torah's movement. It's an honor and a pleasure to introduce everybody to Mayor Sherman, an alumni of Aish Torah.
Wow. Okay. Hello, good Chodesh. I'm Mayor Sherman. I'm a product of Aish Torah, a proud product of Aish Torah. And by no means did I go to Aish expecting to change my life or to become from in any way. I didn't want to change my life or become from. I was having a lot of fun, actually. I was a television producer. My career was on the rise. Things were fun. I was young. I just wanted to pursue that and keep going with that. It was really just two simple things that brought me to Aish. One was a chasna. I was very, very, very inspired by a chasna. I'd been to parties. I'd been to weddings. I'd never been to a Jewish Simcha before, like a from Jewish Simcha, right? And there was something about it that I wanted. I can't really explain it. I wanted to indulge in it and explore it. And the other thing was my sister. My sister was a Broadway actress, actually. When I was in Hollywood, she was in New York. And she went to Neve for about a year and came back just a complete different person. The woman that left, in comparison to the woman that came back, was night and day and borderline miraculous, honestly. She was compassionate. She was sneeze, yet expressive. She was content. I actually enjoyed talking with her. I sought out her wisdom sometimes, seriously. So that was it. So I went. I did it. I wanted to learn more about it, and I signed up for the 3-week program at Aish.com. And my plan was very simple. I was going to go, do some traveling, meet some cool people, get deep Jewish wisdom from rabbis with long white beards, and then shalom. I'm out. Thank you. I'm on my way. That's not what happened. I ended up staying for 5 years. I live now a complete Jewish lifestyle. I married my soulmate, an FFB from Borough Park, believe it or not. It is funny. And then, my life is just far more fulfilling and meaningful than I could have ever imagined. So what happened, really? How does Aish Torah turn 3 weeks into 5 years? And for me, for my journey, it was really just 3 components. The encouragement of questions, the deep belief that every Jew, that Aish Torah has for every Jew in their leadership and their ability to change the world. And then finally was the Limud Torah and the excellent rabbis of Aish Torah. And I'll expound. Let me expound really quick in 6 minutes. So my first day at Aish, when I first got there, I was greeted by the jolliest man ever, Rabbi Schwartz, with the biggest smile. And he's showing him around the campus, showing him around the scene, giving me the itinerary. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is so beautiful. This is so amazing. What's the catch, right? Like, what kind of an organization flies guys out for free to the most prime real estate in the world? What do they want from me? What am I supposed to do for them? So I asked him, I said very bluntly, I said, Rabbi, what's the catch? What do you want from me? What am I supposed to do for you? Right? And what he said threw me off a bit. He said just that you show up to class and ask a lot of questions. Just ask a lot of questions. So in my day, if I had explored into any other religion, which I did, or ideology, no one encouraged questions. In fact, if you proposed a question that challenged their faith in any way, they shut down and usually just shunned you. Right? So here's a rabbi asking me to challenge him. Cool, I'm in. Okay, and that's what I did. I asked a lot of questions. The big ones, the small ones, day in, day out. And one thing led to the next. And eventually, with the questions comes a very, very, very scary conclusion. God's real. And he exists. And he is heavily involved in my life. So it's like, that's awesome, but God's real? I produce reality TV shows. What do I want to do with God? I don't need God right now. I mean, this is great, but what am I supposed to do with this information? You know? Where do I live? Where do I go? Work is emailing me left and right. What do I tell them? I'm moving to Israel indefinitely? Like, thank you? I don't know how to go about this. I never knew a religious Jew, you know? Where do I live? What am I supposed to do? I saw something very interesting. The guys at Aish who stuck around were going through the same kind of turmoil that I was. In one way or another, one guy, his family, thought he was crazy, fell into a cult, and was out to save him. Another guy dropped a girlfriend of 10 years for no other reason than she was just not Jewish. And we were all in this kind of whirlwind of emotion. And we didn't really know what to do or how to go about it. You know, we're about to embark on this new lifestyle. What do we do? A great camaraderie was built through that. But there was times that we honestly said, you know something, are we all crazy? Is Aish just a nut house? And then that's where the leadership part came in. I'll explain. See, when Avram Avinu, in Parshas Lech Lecha, he left. He left his father's home. He left his society. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know what he was going to do when he got there. He just knew that the society that he was in was a contradiction to what he believed and knew was correct, and then therefore left for no other reason than truth and integrity alone. And in doing so, he imbued that great character trait into the Jewish people, every single Yid, as that. No great leader or CEO or iconoclast or anybody ever changed the world for the better by following the flock aimlessly. And Avram Avinu established the Jewish people, talk about changing the world. And it's in that Aish Torah, I think, stands alone in excellence. Because they know and recognize that if you come to Aish and you stay at Aish, then by definition it is proof that you are built of the ingredients of everything that it takes to be a leader and change the world. And then therefore they invest in you. And that's what it did. They invested in me. And they invested in all of us. And the proof's in the pudding. The guys of my generation who are at Aish Torah are out there now doing great things for the Jewish people. They abide and subscribe to Reb Noach's teachings and movement, and they're doing amazing things. Are we crazy? Yeah, probably a little bit. You gotta be. What's his name? Steve Jobs. Obviously, Steve Jobs said something great. He said only the people crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that actually do. I think they called Reb Noach crazy. They would say, Reb Noach Meshugana. There's the guy who's going to build a Baal Tshuva yeshiva. It's crazy. That was it. The intense belief and the understanding of the character traits of what it takes to change the world and how they bring it out in every Talmud there. And the next was, like I said, the Limud Torah and the excellent rabbis of Aish Torah. Taking on the Gemara was tough. You have to learn a new language, right? You have to learn the new style. But I liken it to going to the gym, really. You start working out, it's not fun. Once you start seeing results, it becomes a little bit more fun. You start getting inspired, right? And then, once you start seeing more results and it gets easier, you actually enjoy the process. And that's, for me, very much what it was. I actually began to enjoy the process. And eventually, sometimes, not all the time, I can't say all the time, you get that feeling that I got at that chasna that I went to. Whatever, kedusha, It was. So that's it. That's my Aish Torah journey in 6 minutes. And I'm going to end with this. I'll end with this. It was a beautiful Shabbos, it was, but it can be more than that. I encourage you, I challenge you, if there's something, anything, you know that you can do a lot for the Jewish people, that you can change this world. So go ahead and do it. Before you leave today, take upon yourself something, anything. Remember, for me, why am I here today? A chasna. Somebody invited me to a chasna, and I was impressed by the changes of my sister. She was just a Kiddush Hashem. That's all we have to do sometimes. Just be a Kiddush Hashem and invite somebody to a chasna or to a Simcha, to anything, and can do whirlwinds. Who knows what it can do? So I challenge you, I inspire you to go out, reach out, do that. Thank you so much.
It is now my incredible honor to introduce a dear friend, Michigan Supreme Court Justice, the Honorable Richard H. Bernstein. Richard graduated from University of Michigan and then applied to Northwestern University's law school, where he had to fight the law school admissions council against the visual bias of the LSAT, claiming that the test discriminates against the blind because of its requirements of interpreting visual material. 4 schools agreed, amongst them the Northwestern University Law School, and at the time he was admitted, he was the only blind person in the school. Bernstein was elected during a Michigan statewide election to the Wayne State Board of Governors at the age of 28, and a couple years later, he was unanimously elected as its chair. When I asked Richard, how should I introduce him, he said, skip everything, just talk about the athletics. That's interesting, people like that. So I read deeper and I said, wow, that is remarkable. Richard completed 21 marathons at the age of 34, the Ironman. For those who don't know, that's a 112-mile bike ride, a 26-mile marathon, and a 2.4-mile swim without a break. At 37 years old, Judge Bernstein completed a half marathon in a lot. The competition's first blind competitor. He did that with the assistance of a pilot in the Israeli Air Force. Currently, Bernstein's consulting with the Israeli government on the integration of the special needs population into the Israeli military. Absolutely remarkable. I personally met Richard in New York, though we were neighbors in Detroit 15 years ago. And I remember picking him up in the car, and he says, Simcha, do you feel the energy of New York? I said, no. He says, could you hear it? I said, no. So he said, roll down the windows. So I rolled down the windows, and I heard it. Beep, 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 beep. I said, Richard, what do you hear? He says, people. There's someone crossing the street. There's energy. There's a train beneath us. Feel the rhythm. It's amazing. And Richard, you truly taught me to see. You're an inspiration in my life over these past 15 years, and I know that like you inspired my life and you inspired the life of those you meet, we're looking forward to your inspiration here this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Michigan Supreme Court Justice, the Honorable Richard H. Bernstein.
May God bless all who are here today. May He give you guidance. May He give you wisdom. May He give you strength. May He show you compassion. May He allow you to know mercy. It was a short time ago, and I was asked to be the keynote speaker before the United Nations in Vienna, Austria. People were surprised that a blind person could serve as the highest court in his state. There were 150 countries present. And after the presentation, we adjourned to speak with the global press, and people simply couldn't understand how this was possible. How can a blind person do this work? How can you understand the facts that are presented? How can you visit a crime scene? How can you keep up with the information? How is this something which is even remotely possible? And then one reporter said something that I'll always remember. When she said, just how American is that? That a blind person could be elected by their state to represent people in their highest court. The values of Aish Torah are found in the spirit of America. There's an energy at Aish Torah. There's an enthusiasm. There's an idealism. There's an eternal optimism. There's a wondrous passion. There's an incredible sense of mission. Aish allows for people to realize the beauty of Judaism, the kindness and the warmth of its people, the energy and boundless excitement, the eternal optimism that tomorrow will always be better than today. I got a call one morning from a wonderful young mom. As we go through life, there are always certain experiences that truly define us. And this wonderful woman asked me, she said, Richard, I'm reaching out to you because I know that you care about people with disabilities, but I'm calling because I simply want to know why. I'm a good person. I'm a kind person. I'm a pious person. I keep Shabbos. I have a kosher home. The only thing that I asked from Hashem was He would allow for me to have a family, that He would allow for me to have children that I could raise and introduce into Judaism. So why is it that of all the people in the world, Hashem would give me a child with severe special needs? Help me to understand. What kind of a life is my newborn going to have? Do you think he's ever going to have any friends? Do you think he's ever going to live independently? Do you think now I'll ever have grandchildren? What's going to happen to my baby when I am no longer here to care and provide for him? And when do you think that the God that I pray to will ever allow for me and my family to have an ordinary life? And when do you think that the God that I have served so loyally will ever allow for me to no longer have to suffer? And I remember thinking back and trying to answer this question by tapping into my own life experience and saying, I believe it's okay to be upset. I believe it's okay to be disappointed. I think it's okay to be sad. We don't have to be happy all the time. We don't have to be joyous all the time. We don't have to be celebratory all the time. We don't have to have praise all the time. I think it's okay for us to feel that sadness, to feel that sense of loss, to feel as though our life isn't going the way that we hoped or the way that we had wished or the way that we had even prayed. And I remember saying to this wonderful young mom, I don't believe that there will ever be anything about your life or about your child's life that will be remotely ordinary from this point forward. Because I believe that from this moment forward, your family and your child were sent here to not simply be ordinary, but to be extraordinary. I don't believe that Hashem would ever create any human being with the idea that we should ever have to suffer. There are some who walk among us that do have to struggle. Let us use that struggle to find greatness. Let us use that struggle to find identity. Let us use that struggle to connect with Hashem. I remember as a young judge having a conversation with some other people about what are the qualities that go into being a good jurist? Being elected to Michigan's highest court, I was young and new and excited, but I wanted to understand, what do you think makes a really good judge? You're making decisions that affect the lives of people. You're the last word for the state of Michigan. There's nowhere else to go. People's lives hang in the balance. Their freedom hangs in their balance. So what are the qualities that allow for someone to make the decisions necessary to serve this role, to do this well? And people said, oh, well, to be a good judge, it's all about your academics. It's all about what school, your LSAT score. It's all about your intellectual ability. It's about your ability to research and to write and to publish. Those are the things that make a good judge. It's all about the books. It's all about the academics. I remember thinking that there's something missing. And that was life experience. Hashem gives us our life experience for a reason. He doesn't give us our life experience for joy. He doesn't give us our life experience for happiness. He doesn't give us our life experience for us. He gives us our life experience so that we can have an impact, that we can have an effect, that we can change the lives of those who live and work amongst us. He gives us our life experiences so that we can do something with it. It is our life experiences that create understanding. It is our life experiences that create appreciation. It is our life experiences that give us perspective and understanding and empathy. It is our life experiences that allow for us to have a true and genuine and lasting connection with the Creator. It is our life experiences that give us fulfillment. It is our life experiences that give us purpose. It is our life experiences that give us mission. It is our life experiences that give us ultimate reason for creation. So we come to Aish because we're all looking for something. We come to Aish because we want to find answers. We come to Aish because we've experienced loss. We've come to Aish because we're curious. We come to Aish because we want to have a greater appreciation of the world that lasts and exists around us. We come to Aish so that we can understand what our purpose is, what our reason is. We come to Aish to find the joy in life. We come to Aish to experience the passion that Hashem gives us. But we come to Aish because we want to know why. We want to know why. If Hashem is so great, if Hashem is so merciful, if Hashem is so kind, what kind of a God allows for bad things to happen to otherwise such good people? And why is it that there are some who walk among us that have to know a greater struggle or a greater hardship or a greater challenge than others can possibly imagine or even attempt to understand? As we go through life, there are experiences that define us. And often it is the case that people will say, if you've gone through a trauma, if you've lost a loved one, if you're facing sickness or your family is facing sickness, people will often say, you're going to be fine. You're going to make a complete recovery. But often it is the case in life that there are some who walk among us that don't get to recover. The power in life is the values of Aish. It's the idea that it's not always about recovering, but it's about adapting. The power comes through adapting. The strength comes through adapting to the life that you're given, not the life that you want, to the circumstances that you're in, not the circumstances that you hope for. The power comes in adaptation. And with adaptation comes great pride. With adaptation comes a new sense of purpose, a new sense of mission, a new sense of excitement. What comes with adaptation is the ability to survive, the ability to face life, the ability to turn a page, the ability to live the way that Hashem intended for us to live. Beauty of life is never a snapshot. It's never about one day. It's about having the ability to see things in a totality. And for so many of us, it's about the idea that you're going to have bad days, bad weeks, bad months, bad years. But if you can find just enough good, just enough, you can balance out the bad. And you can find the meaning in your existence. So why is it that bad things happen to otherwise such good people? And why is it that there are some who have to know this greater struggle or this greater hardship or this greatest challenge than others have to? Why is life so unfair to some? Why is life so cruel to others? As you heard from Simcha, I've been blessed. I've had the opportunity of completing 21 marathons and a full Ironman competition. I invite you to picture, if you would, the feeling you would have as you dive into a frigid body of water. As you heard in the introduction, an Ironman is a 2.4-mile swim followed by a 112-mile bike to be completed by a 26.2-mile run. If you stop, if you rest, if you take a break, you run the risk of missing a cutoff. If a cutoff is missed, you will be immediately disqualified from the competition. If you finish at 12:05 instead of 12 o'clock, it is like you were never even there. 2 years of training, work, and effort will literally be for nothing. So I invite you to picture, if you would, the feeling you have as you dive into this frigid body of water. The water temperature being 55 degrees. Imagine swimming in total darkness. You have no idea where you started. You have no idea where you're going. And you have no idea where you are. Being the only disabled competitor, you get kicked in the face over and over again by all the other swimmers. And being blind, you can't brace for the ensuing impact. You try to surface, but it's impossible because there's other swimmers immediately above you. And lastly, others become entangled in the rope that connects you to your guide. And as they become entangled, the rope becomes ensnared. And as the rope becomes ensnared, it starts taking you below the surface. The waves come crashing down. You try to surface, but it's impossible. The more you want oxygen, the harder it is to obtain. When you're looking for a connection with Hashem, you find it at your most vulnerable moments. You find it when you're scared. You find it when you're in pain. We find it when your future is simply unknown. When you're looking for a connection with Hashem, you come to realize at those moments, that is when miracles truly do happen. You come to realize that yes, there are some of us whose bodies are mortal, whose bodies are infirmed. But it is always those very people who have spirits that can soar, who have souls that know no bounds. It is always those people that have a resilience that is stronger, that is greater than the weakest of bodies. Yes, our bodies are infirmed. Yes, our bodies are mortal, but it's from that our souls are incredibly powerful and have no limitations. So why is it that bad things happen to otherwise such good people? And why is it that there are some who walk among us that have to know this greater struggle or greater hardship than others? It was a beautiful day here in New York City. At this point, I had done 17 marathons and a full Ironman. It's August 13th, a beautiful, beautiful Monday morning, 85 degrees and sunny, the kind of day you just love to be in the park. I was walking in the pedestrian lane. I can do that because I've memorized Central Park, so I can walk in the lane that serves as circumference without an escort or without a guide. It's a beautiful day. I was thinking about how great life is, actually. And there was a cyclist. A bicyclist was traveling at a speed of in excess of 35 miles an hour, which happens often in Central Park. And this bicyclist was going so fast that he couldn't maintain control. And because he couldn't maintain control, he veered into the pedestrian lane where I was walking and struck me directly in the back. Now, a 35-mile-an-hour impact is catastrophic, to say the least. We have the right to be angry with Hashem, and we have the right to challenge Hashem. We have the right to look up to the heavens and say, no more. I worked my whole life as a blind person to be an athlete. I worked my whole life as a blind person to become a lawyer. I worked my life as a blind person to become independent. No more. Now I have to spend over 10 weeks at Mount Sinai Hospital. And it's those little things in life that you really miss the most. As an athlete, it's difficult to have people carry you or have to touch you. It's hard not to be able to use the bathroom without assistance. It's hard that you're not able to take a warm shower. And it's hard that you can't sleep through the night because the pain is so intense. We have the right to be upset, and we have the right to be angry, and we have the right to speak out. People used to come and they'd visit, and I'd always ask them, so tell me, where are you going after you leave Sinai? And they say, oh, I'm going to go and pick up some groceries. I want to go meet some friends for dinner. Oh, I got to pick up my dry cleaning. And they'd say it in a very rudimentary, mundane way. And I'd always say, those are the things that you have to cherish. Those are the things that you have to enjoy. Those are the things that make life great. Those are the things that create life at its essence and its core. That ability to go to the lobby. That ability to go outside and feel a fresh burst of air. That sense of riding on a subway or taking a taxi, going to the park, sitting in a restaurant, savoring the cuisine, having wonderful conversation, being able to hear the glasses as they clink, tasting that wonderful food. Hashem is with us in the little things. He's with us in the things that we don't always notice, that we don't always see. That through our experiences, we truly come to know him. We truly come to find him. We truly come to connect with him. He's with us in the small things. It's the small things that make life great. It's the small things that give it meaning. It's the small things that give it joy. It's the small things that give us our dignity. It's our life experiences. Find the reason. Find the joy. Find the purpose in the experiences that Hashem gives to us. The more challenging the experience, the greater the purpose. The greater the mission, the more important it ever could be. I just came back from Spain. Yesterday, in fact. Working with the Supreme Court there to allow for people who are blind to serve as judges. Also working with the government there so that people who are disabled can have the right to vote. Often in some cultures, it's believed that if you have a disability, you shouldn't be able to vote. You shouldn't have the ability to become a judge, have a profession, be independent. I remember speaking in Spain, and I remember saying, the people that you have denied the right to vote are the ones who have the most to say. They are the ones who have the most to share. They are the ones with the experiences that give them the greatest knowledge, that give them the greatest insight. They are the ones with the deepest purpose and the most wondrous of missions. They are the ones whose voices should always be heard. For it is those who struggle, it is those who know pain that Hashem cares for the most. That Hashem is always there for. That Hashem is always guiding. That Hashem is always looking over. And I would venture to say that from our own life experiences are the ones who have the greatest connection, greatest understanding. We battle and we fight and we challenge and we get angry and we do all those types of things. But isn't that the sign of a real relationship? Isn't that the sign of a true parent and child? Isn't that the way it's truly supposed to be? My last moments that I have with you today, I ask for you as you go on your journey to celebrate every small victory. Celebrate every small joy. There is no victory that shouldn't be celebrated. There is no joy that isn't worth admiration. In my situation, I would celebrate the fact that I could sit up in bed. I would celebrate the fact that I could start using a walker. And I would celebrate the fact that this one-time marathoner and Ironman could find his way to the end of the ward and reach the nurse's station. It was a short time ago, and it was time for the New York City Marathon. Now, running the New York City Marathon was going to be difficult with a shattered hip and crushed pelvis. It would be painful. It would be hard. People would ask, why would you do this? What's the point? You're not going to beat your past record. You used to be a fast runner. But it would be a marathon nonetheless. It would be an experience nonetheless. It would just be different. It would be a different challenge. It would be a different experience. Living with chronic pain can be incredibly difficult. But Hashem is always there. You might be angry and curse him, but he's always there to help you deal with the pain that you feel every day and every night. We ran through the streets of New York. Pain was becoming so intense as we reached mile 18 and started crossing the 59th Street Bridge. Came down to First Avenue and started heading up to the South Bronx. The pain was becoming so intense. I remember praying to Hashem, and I said, Hashem, I really want this. I really want this. Please let me finish this race. Please let me cross this finish line. I'm working through the pain. I appreciate the pain. I respect the pain. But please don't let me lose consciousness. Please don't let me pass out. Please let me have this. That moment, I was able to find a sense of peace. You find a peace with your new life and your new circumstance. You make a peace with your new body. At certain points in life, you're actually able to find a peace with Hashem. So why is it that bad things happen to otherwise such good people? Why are there some who have to walk amongst us that know a greater struggle, hardship, and pain than others can possibly imagine or attempt to understand? I think we learn from Aish a valuable lesson about life. At a certain point, you just simply can't spend your time and your energy and your effort trying to get over it. Realize you simply have no other option and no other choice but to just get on with it. And often it is those who know struggle, heartache, and pain that will do what is hard to achieve what is great. We must look at our life as a great novel. Within any great story, there will be chapters. Chapters of pain, chapters of setback, chapters of frustration. It's only through those chapters you can come to find hope, joy, and triumph. Let us celebrate life for its good and for its bad. Let us celebrate why we are here and why we are created. Let us celebrate the experiences that the Creator gives to us. Let us celebrate the idea that extraordinary things can, will, and must happen for us all. For ultimately, if I didn't have the experiences that I did, I wouldn't be a good justice. I wouldn't be kind. I wouldn't be patient. I wouldn't be as understanding. I wouldn't be able to empathize. Those skills would be absent. It is through the experiences that Hashem gives us that we can serve others, that we can impact others, that we can make a difference for others. Let us celebrate life. Let us celebrate Hashem. And let us celebrate the idea that yes, our bodies are mortal, our bodies are infirmed, but it is our spirits and souls that truly know no bounds.
Richard, thank you so much for sharing yourself with us. I did have to ask Richard if he finished that marathon. And he said, oh, absolutely, definitely. I absolutely finished that marathon. So, Richard. It is now my incredible honor to introduce Rabbi Shlomo Farhi. But before I do, I just want to mention that following Rabbi Farhi's presentation, we're going to be hearing from Rabbi Elliot Matthias, Director of Hasbara Fellowship, for final remarks. Rabbi Farhi, who's joining us today for the conference, is Israeli-born and American-raised. Rabbi Shlomo Farhi was brought up in the Syrian community in Deal, New Jersey. He has lived in London with his wife and 5 children for the past 10 years and is the founder and director of Chazak, a dynamic educational organization catering to the specific needs of UK's Sephardic community. A rare blend of intelligence, dynamism, and wit, he is a product of top Israeli yeshivot, coupled with over a decade of expertise in both informal and formal Jewish education. Rabbi Farhi is a charismatic and sought-after speaker and lectures weekly in Jewish and non-Jewish schools, university campuses, and young professional circles in the length and breadth of the UK. Although he is UK-based, he travels frequently to direct educational programs in Israel, Eastern Europe, and the Americas to teach in Jewish communities worldwide. He serves as an educational consultant to several Jewish schools, charities, and communities who seek to benefit from his innovative approach to Jewish education and his insightful understanding of the issues that young Jewish people face today. Over the last few years, he has developed an impressive array of Jewish theatrical productions, captivating short online films, and online classes that appeal to Jews of all ages and backgrounds. Rabbi Farhi, I'm one of those people that watch you online, and now it's a pleasure to have you live here at our conference. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's quite scary. I'm one of those people who watch you online. I also have to update that bio. I now have 6 children. Thank you very much. Like it's a massive achievement. Okay. So the name of this class was Digging Deep, the Giants That Walk Among Us. And it's quite fun. Sorry. I just feel very uncomfortable sharing this, so I'm just going to begin with this. I feel very small, specifically at this conference. Not like a giant at all. First of all, the fact that we're sitting here in the presence of peoples like the Chief Rabbis, Chief Rabbi Lau, it's unbelievable. And all the amazing Makarvim and the amazing people that are doing wonderful things. Rabbi Berg running Aish doing such an amazing job. Yossi Friedman putting this entire place together. You know, the person who first actually brought me to come to Aish, by the way, many years ago, who I'm embarrassed to say, he got me to work for Aish with a line that some of you may find is familiar. He said, why don't you come to London? I said, I have no plans of moving to London. He said, come to London. Worst case scenario, it will just be a free trip. You know, I never knew that worked on rabbis, but I guess it does. Okay, so I want to thank everybody for having me here, but I'd like to share with you why I feel so small. A little while ago, I was running a program called JLF, something that was started by a remarkable woman here who was here with us today, Jackie Engel. And we rearranged our entire schedule in order to be able to have the former chief rabbi, Rabbi Yisrael Meir Shlita, come to speak to our group. We moved an entire day to the other side, changed all of the activities that were supposed to happen. Everything moved in order to be able to allow us to hear from him in Tel Aviv. Disaster. So I get a phone call from the guy who's in charge of running the trip for logistics, and he happens to be South African. So, you know, I don't know if you noticed when Rabbi Goldstein Shlita, when he spoke, South Africans speak a little bit differently than Americans do. I don't know if you noticed this, right? And the guy says to me, he says, you know, I just got a phone call from Rabbi Lau's daughter, and she said that he needs to, he unfortunately won't be able to make it because he's going to be checking hospitals today. So I said, I can't believe it. Today of all days, he needs to go checking the hospitals, you know, for kashrus, for this, for that, for kohanim. Like, you know, we changed our whole program, you know, just in order to be able to hear him. Is there any way, please go back to his daughter and ask her to ask Rav Lau if he could figure out a way of checking the hospitals on another day and coming to see us according to the schedule. He says, okay. He's a little bit puzzled, calls me back a few minutes later. He says, I spoke to Rav Lau's daughter. She doesn't know what you want. I said, what do you mean? See, when he said checking hospitals, he said it like South Africans. He said, checking. I had asked the chief rabbi of Israel when he was checking into the hospital if it was at all possible for him to check in another day because we really wanted him to speak to us. And you know those moments when you hear something and you're like, no. I've only had that feeling once more in my life. It was when I was communicating with a very important donor of ours who, God bless him, he's an elderly man and he has Parkinson's. And I sent him a message and I wrote the words, Shalom Tzaddik. And as I sent it off, I realized that it had auto-corrected to shaking Tzaddik. Oh boy. So I'm hearing this on the phone. The chief rabbi's daughter doesn't know what you want from her or his life. He's going to the hospital now. There's not much he can do to rearrange it for your program. I wanted to die. I turned up at the event that day, and we make other arrangements, and other people are speaking, and I think I've got away with it. And all of a sudden, there's a commotion in the back. Who's there? Current Chief Rabbi Lau. And he walks in, and I walk up to him, and I say, oh, Shalom Aleichem, what is the Rav doing here? He says, the truth is, I don't know, I had a very busy day, but I got a phone call from my father in the hospital. I said, do you know who I am? He said, no, and I ran. So I think I'm uniquely suited to be speaking about digging deep to find the giants amongst us, because I have very rarely felt so small than to see the both of them here. And some of you were wondering why I only came Sunday. Let's get cracking. The Torah is full of unbelievable messages expressing to us what it means to be great. But the fantastic thing about the way the Torah expresses greatness is that it is often in a way which you would not have thought of at first glance. And I want to speak about one of these cases because I believe that it carries a fantastic message, especially for a partners conference run by Aish HaTorah. One of the greatest leaders the Jewish people have ever had was a young man called Shmuel. Shmuel's mother, Hannah, had difficulty having children, and she prayed with all of her heart. So much so, with such sincerity, that prayer becomes the cornerstone and the way that we learn how to pray for all of time. And Hannah promises God, if you bless me with this child that I so desperately want, then I promise you I will give him to you. From the young age, he will be here in the temple serving you. Hannah miraculously has a baby. And as a young child, that child is brought to the temple and he serves Hashem under the tutelage of the great Eli HaKohen. He's still a young man when one night, in the middle of the night, Shmuel hears a voice, and the voice says, Shmuel. Shmuel jumps out of bed and he says, Hineni, here I am. He goes running into the next room, into the room of Eli HaKohen, this elderly man who was infirm, who was unable to see, who needed the help, and he was sure it was Eli that was calling him. He'd never experienced prophecy or a divine message before. So he comes into the room and says, yes. And Eli HaKohen says, it is not I that woke you up. And I want to read you these words. Vayomer hineni, here I am, ki karasali, because you have called to me. Vayomer, and he says, lo karasi, I did not call you. Shuv shechav, go back to sleep. Shmuel goes back to sleep, but it happens a second time. Shmuel, he wakes up, runs into the other room. Hineni, here I am, you called me. Eli HaKohen says, I didn't call you, go back to sleep. Shuv shechav. A third time it happens. He runs in the room. Now it's just getting annoying. And Eli HaKohen says, it wasn't me. But if you hear the voice again, if you hear the call once more, answer it and say, Daber Hashem, speak Hashem, ki shomea avdecha, because your servant is listening, is ready to receive your message. But up until that point, Eli HaKohen tells Shmuel to go back to sleep. Rav Meir Shapiro was a child prodigy. At the young age of, I think it was 12 years old, they realized that there was no one in his hometown who was capable of teaching him anything. So his father sent him to the Shatzarov, far away, who was known to be a genius. He studied with his children, who were also brilliant minds. And even though they were older than him, Rav Meir Shapiro came and studied with these older boys with the Shatzarov. But when they weren't learning, they would do old, grown-up things, and he would play in the backyard. He was a kid. He played with the Shatzarov's kids. And he would tell them as a young boy of the dreams that he had. Not just of studying, not just of having a yeshiva, but of starting a movement. Getting every Jew quite literally on the same page, where everyone would study the same book on the same day, and a Jew from New York that would travel all the way to Israel, or from Israel to Europe, or from Europe to wherever, they'd arrive and they'd be on the same page, able to learn with their brothers a blot Gemara, a page of Gemara. The kids told him, Mayor, stop having these dreams. What are you doing? Grow up. Just sit there, study, do your thing. Shuv shechav. Go back to sleep. Because make no mistake, doing the right thing, but not the thing that you were made to do, is going back to sleep. He grows up, and history is made. He presents his idea to the Chafetz Chaim, and in an instant, it seems, it's taken up across the whole world. Years later, after the world is learning Daf Yomi, today it numbers in the hundreds of thousands. When they make these massive siyumim in football stadiums, in Madison Square Garden, in Binyanei Ha'umah. Years later, he's speaking at a convention, maybe like this, and he hears that the Shatzer Rebbe's daughter is in attendance. He sees her husband and he says, "Is it all right? Please, would you tell your wife I'd like to have a couple words before she leaves?" She comes over and he says, "Hello, so nice to meet you. I just wanted to thank you for all the time that I spent in your house, in your parents' home. I want you to promise me one thing," he says. "You now run many schools filled with young women. You teach them, you inspire them, you push them to grow. Promise me you won't do to them what you once did to me. Tell them to go back to sleep." Could you imagine what would have happened? Shmuel gets the call again and again and again. But what would have happened if it only would have been called once? And he would have thought it wasn't, because how could it be that this is coming to me? Who am I to do this? Who am I to be this? And the message he gets from his leader, from his teachers, from his parents, from his society is, "You're right. You're nothing. It can't be that he's talking to you." What we would have lost if we didn't have a Rav Meir Shapiro, if we didn't have a Shmuel. This, my friends, is, I think, the most powerful message of coming to a partners conference. And I remember being here when Rav Noach was here, and he would pound on the shtender. And he would tell us that it's not just a man like him with a gray beard who knew all of Torah. It's not just him with a yeshiva, with students that are placed in every place, but it's every person in this room who is capable of doing, of going, of being. Rav Noach was the ultimate alarm clock, the opposite of Shuv Shechav. Because the result of being told that again and again, "You're just a kid, you're just you don't have, you don't know, who gave you kiruv training?" The result of that is what happens to Shmuel. And I want you to pay attention to this, because it's so beautiful, it's poignant, it's bittersweet, it's heartbreaking. Shmuel says, he hears from Eli. Eli says, if the voice comes again, if you were challenged to pick up the baton, to be somebody again, respond and say, Daber, say to this voice, Daber Hashem, speak, O God, ki shomea avdecha, because your servant is listening. Shmuel goes back to sleep. Vayavo Hashem, and Hashem comes. Vayityatzav, and he stands. Vayikra, and he calls kipam bepam, as he had called time after time, sending this message, reverberating through Shmuel's very being. And Shmuel stands up after it's been the fourth time, after his Rebbe has finally told him, I believe in you. It's you. If it comes again, you've been chosen. And Shmuel says, Daber ki shomea avdecha. That one word that's missing. That one word that is everything here. Eli says to him to say, speak Hashem, because your servant is listening. Shmuel can't bring himself to say, speak Hashem. Look at Rashi. Look at Mitzudas David. They both say, Omar, he said to himself, Shema kol acheru. Maybe after all this, it's someone else speaking. Maybe someone's playing a prank. Maybe it can't be me. What a tragedy that would be. To lose the ones that can make all the difference in the world because they have not got the message that someone believes in them. If you have heard Rabbi Berg's message loud and clear, you know that if you cannot find it anywhere else, you can find it here. Aish HaTorah believes in you. Whether you carry the name Aish HaTorah on your t-shirt or not, Aish HaTorah believes in you. It exists to empower people to make a difference to the Jewish destiny. We carry on Rav Noach's mission of being an alarm clock You know, there are two words in Hebrew which represent different ends of the spectrum. When a child becomes a man and accepts the yoke of mitzvot, he is known as a bar mitzvah. At the apex of his career, the epitome of his growth, he gets smicha and he's called a rav. Bar, child, and rav are the same letters. But what defines one as a child is if the bet comes before the resh. And what defines you as a rav, as a rabbi, but not just as a rav is someone who is great, is if your resh comes before your bet. What am I talking about? The word resh in Hebrew also means a head. The word bet also means, the letter bet also means a house. What motivates you? What guides you? Is it your house or is it your head? When Abraham is chosen for his epic journey to be the man who would be God's flag bearer on earth, he is told and commanded in that initial journey, Lech lecha me'artzecha, leave your country. Lech lecha, leave your country. Moladetecha, the place of your birth, mibet avicha, the house of your father. And the commentators ask, surely that's a redundancy. All it needed to say was leave your country. If you leave your country, you've automatically also left your city. You've also left your father's home. And the concept is driven home with all of its force. Hashem was telling Abraham not to leave physical places, but the manifestations of each of those places. Your home is a place where people decide sometimes for you who you are going to be. Sometimes people are living vicariously through you. Sometimes we become byproducts of people who are in our homes. We develop into somebody because of a dominant or passive brother or sister. We develop into someone because of an abusive or a kind father or mother. But that's not you. That's some reaction to a circumstance. So Hashem says to Avraham, leave that. Leave Moladetecha, leave the city. We know the cities that we grow up in like the palm of our hand. If you drop us anywhere in the city, we know how to get to anywhere else. We know the shortcuts. Leave behind your comfort. I sat and interviewed a man who works for an unbelievable company. He's a man who got his start in the business that he was in. He was working in IT for the Economist Group. His name is Mr. Andrew Rashbas. They promoted him to be the CEO of the Economist Group. An IT guy. He doesn't know anything about finance or journalism. He then gets picked up to become the CEO of Thomson Reuters, a news agency's news agency. He doesn't know anything about news. And then he moves to Euromoney. He's not done finance. And I asked him, how did this happen? How did you get to where you got to with the training that you have? And he said something to me, which first I thought was a self-deprecating joke, but then I realized the power of what he was saying. He said, I never let myself get too good at anything that I couldn't do something else. The comfort that we feel that locks us into places where we could be doing so much more. Lech lecha, Hashem says to Abraham to leave it. But what I found fascinating about this, and I shared a couple days ago with Rav Schiff, was that whilst Abraham is given commandments of everything he needs to leave, he's not told where to go. In this journey of excellence, of achievement, of greatness, it's not about going somewhere. It's about the process of cutting ties with the things that hold us back. When a person can weaken the Yetzer Hara that tries to inhibit him, he doesn't need to go somewhere. Automatically, his neshama guides him to places that he'd never thought possible or she'd never believed were achievable. Because inside, we are great. We are powerful. We are infinite. We are expansive. We are not ego-driven. Elokai neshama shenatata bi tehora. We have a holy, pure neshama, a piece of Hashem invested in each and every one of us. So long as we can leave behind these things, we achieve unbelievable, unimaginable things. The word in Hebrew for a dream is chalom. And the commentators always explain to us that when a word is made up of letters, the alternate variations of that word are part of its own essence. If a person has a dream, the very same letters that spell the word chalom also spell the word lochem, to be a warrior. Lots of people have dreams. Hayinu kecholmim. Everybody in this room has thought of something that they could do to better the life of somebody else, to reach out to somebody else, to strengthen Jewish identity and pride and shmirat mitzvot in their communities. We've all had good ideas. But who's willing to fight for them? If you want your dreams to come true, you need to fight. But it also contains a third amalgam, and that is mochel. The ability that one has to be able to have to forgive, to give up on something. Every great thing we want exacts a price from us. It takes time, it takes care, it takes effort, it takes prayer, it takes emunah, and it comes at the expense of something else. So what do I want to fight for? What have I noticed inside of myself that I want to fight for? We call this digging deep. And there's a great word that I've been playing with for a little while in my head. It was said in passing conversation with someone. And it happens when you dig deep. You know what you discover when you dig deep? Not just courage, not just determination. When you dig deep, you find buried values. Do you know what a buried value is? A value you don't even know that you have. A feeling which is much stronger than you thought that it was. You have Jews who don't think all that much about being Jewish until someone dares to say something anti-Semitic. Who don't really feel connected with Israel. I disagree with Israel and its policies, la, 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 la. And then someone says something about Israel and they come out like a lion. That's a buried value. Because when push comes to shove, these things, they sit inside of us. But it's uncomfortable to fight for them. It's not our role, mi bet avicha, to fight for them. It's not my place. Culturally, it's considered rude to talk about politics. So we hold back from our buried values. Lech lecha. Travel to yourself. Release yourself on the world. You are a gift that we have been waiting for. And I want to share, in ending, because I know I'm running out of time, even though I have a lot more to say, unfortunately. And that is that this is possible, even when people don't believe. Not just that they don't believe that they have enough, they believe that they don't have anything which makes them or renders them capable of achieving this. A 15-year-old boy whose name was Jack Andraka lost a close family friend to pancreatic cancer. The biggest challenge with pancreatic cancer and its 95% mortality rate is that by the time that you know that you have it, it's too late to treat. The pain hit him close to home, and pain is a great motivator. That's why Hashem gives us nisyonos. And Draka decides that if the reason why people die from this terrible disease is because they don't know they have it, surely all you need to do is check people before. What's the problem? You can't check everybody. It's too expensive. So a 15-year-old boy sends off 200 emails to universities, to labs, to ask them for lab time so he can work on his idea, to develop something which ultimately would become a strip that one could put blood on, that would be able to detect early on that someone had the markers for pancreatic cancer. Do you know the price of his test? 3 cents. If it goes ahead and they wind up getting approval, it will be something that every single person can get tested for with minuscule costs. He works on this for 7 months, and I want to just read this to you. They thought that he'd come for a couple of weeks in Johns Hopkins, the one out of the 200 emails that was returned. The young scientist worked for 7 months, every day after school, and often on Saturdays, he's not Jewish, until after midnight, subsisting on hard-boiled eggs and Twix. Another sign that you know he wasn't Jewish. There'd have been a lot more food. As his mother dozed in the car in a nearby parking garage. He labored through Thanksgiving and Xmas. He spent his 15th birthday in the lab. Rabotai, when you know what you believe in, you find it within yourself to be able to exert, to fight, to give up on things for your dream, for our dream, for Klal Yisrael's dream. Hayinu kecholmim, we have been waiting for a day of peace for so long, a time when we're allowed to live in our own country, when we're not vilified for defending our own citizens. But that dream needs people to fight for it. And I'm sitting in a room with hundreds of people. Who are those people? We need to stop looking for the giants amongst us and realize that those giants are us. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless our endeavors. And we be zochet to see an Aish Partners conference like this, double, triple, quadruple in size, as many, many more people take on the mission and recognize that they have it within themselves to be able to do something beautiful, something big in their world, so long as there's someone sleeping in the car in the parking garage, believing that they can do it. There's an entire team of people who believe in you. So let's get to work.
Thank you, Rabbi Fari. If I could ask everyone to remain seated for a few more minutes while I introduce Rabbi Elia Matthias for a few final words. Rabbi Matthias is the founder and director of the Hasbara Fellowships Program, which has trained over 3,000 students to combat anti-Israel propaganda on college campuses. Recently, Rabbi Matthias and the Hasbara Fellowship received a grant from the Israeli government to expand their incredible work. Rabbi Matthias, besides his responsibilities at the Hasbara Fellowship Program, took over as executive director of Aish New York's campus programs. Clap again, guys, for Aish New York college campuses. It's been great having your energy here for Shabbos. Rabbi Matthias also serves on the executive board of Aish Global and the VAD of the Amutah. Ladies and gentlemen, Rabbi Elliot Matthias.
The wrap-up job, never easy. The Aish Conference is my favorite weekend of the year. Actually, 15 years ago, I was engaged to my wife, and I actually had my ufruf, the celebration before you get married, at the Aish Conference 15 years ago. And that made me realize something profound. Why is the Aish Conference my favorite conference of the year? The food is good, but that's not the reason. Actually, Yossi, last night I heard a rumor that between 3:30 and 4:30 in the morning, there was no food out in the lobby. I don't know what's going on here. Do a little better next year. But that's not the reason why. And it's not the reason. Even the speakers, I mean, listen to what we just heard, unbelievable. Having the chief rabbis, the rabbis from the Aish branches, this has been incredibly inspiring. But that's not, for me, the reason either. The reason why, for me, the Aish Conference is my favorite weekend of the year is because this is when we come together as a family. What is a family? A family is created in two ways. One way is through blood. You're born into a family. You can't choose who your family is. But there's another way a family is created. I know I've had the experience, maybe other people have had this experience. Have you ever been in Israel and you see if you're with an IDF soldier and they run into another soldier that they served with, and they're like blood brothers. They've literally put their lives on the line for each other. They are so close, you would think that they were literally blood brothers, that they literally grew up in the same house. Why? Because they have a common mission. They have a common purpose. They have literally dedicated their lives to that common mission. And to me, that is what Aish Torah is about. Aish Torah is about the common mission we have, and to come together for a weekend and spend that weekend together and a Shabbat together with people that we have a common mission in and mission with. That is family. But a conference has to come to an end. I was thinking about it this morning. The end of Shabbat, it can be a sad time. You've connected to Shabbat in a meaningful way. But it's also the most uplifting time. You've sat through an entire Shabbat. You've gained everything, all the spirituality, the time with your family and your friends, and the wisdom you can gain. You've gained through the entire Shabbat. You're at the pinnacle. But when we make Havdalah, our sages tell us that when you look at the candle, the Havdalah candle, it literally can give a person sight. What does that mean? It means that we look at the world differently on Shabbat. And if we look at the Havdalah candle and we take what we saw on Shabbat, that we saw the world in a different way, we're charged to take that sight with us into the week. And that's the same when we're here at the end of the conference. If we walk out of the doors today and say, wow, that was a great weekend. I was inspired. That was fantastic. Honey, where do we got to go? Where are we going for dinner tonight? Then we have failed. The point of this conference, and I heard once, it's a rabbi's role to comfort the uncomfortable, but also to make the comfortable uncomfortable. And so I'm speaking to myself right now, and I just want to share the advice I'll tell myself with everyone else. We need to become a little uncomfortable. I had the merit to study in Aish Torah for 5 years under Rabbi Noach Weinberg, and there was one Rosh Hashanah towards the end of my time there that Rabbi Weinberg and his family came and spent the Rosh Hashanah together with the yeshiva. And we were sitting over the meal, and a few of the guys in the yeshiva had the idea, you know what? Let's stand up and tell Rabbi Weinberg what we appreciate about him. Why we have a karat tov, what do we appreciate about Rabbi Weinberg? So I had been there a few years, I felt a little comfortable, maybe a little too confident. Stood up in front of Rabbi Weinberg. I said, Rabbi Weinberg, I want to tell Rabbi Weinberg why I appreciate Rabbi Weinberg. And I appreciate Rabbi Weinberg, I said, because Rabbi Weinberg, every step of the way, Rabbi Noach has made me feel uncomfortable. I walked into Aish Torah, graduated from a good university, wanted to go to law school, felt confident, had the world in front of me, thought I knew a lot. And I walked in and he asked me some very basic questions. What would you rather be, happy or rich? Are you eating to live or are you living to eat? Are you a body or are you a soul? I was really uncomfortable. But then I adapted, I joined, I became part of Aish Torah, I started studying, and I started to feel comfortable again. And he looked at me and said, really, you're here? Are you taking your studies seriously? Do you know that there's 613 mitzvot? Do you know them all? Have you memorized them all? Have you studied this tractate? Have you studied that? And I realized I wasn't being serious. And I was uncomfortable again. And I committed myself more to my studies. And I was there for a longer time, and I got comfortable again. And again, Rabbi Weinberg said, great, now you're committed, now you're studying. What are you doing for others? Have you joined this program of students to lead them? Are you teaching others? What are you doing? And then I started Hasbara fellowships, and I was leading trips of students, and I felt again, okay, now I've done the mission of Aish Torah. I've built myself. I've become more connected. I'm teaching other people. And this is what I said in front of Rabbi Weinberg. I said, see, Rabbi Weinberg, you made me so uncomfortable along the way, and that's what I appreciate. And without missing a step, Rabbi Weinberg looked at me and said, then what are you still doing here? And that was him. Every step of the way. Even today, 15 years later, it's very easy for myself to become comfortable. Look what we're accomplishing. Look what we've done. But that is our death knell. That is what stops us from becoming great. There was a woman, Kim Ann Linthicum, from Reno, Nevada. And she served in the U.S. military. She had a 10-year-old daughter, has a 10-year-old daughter. And this past September, she was watching television, and she saw the destruction of Hurricane Harvey in Houston. And she made a decision on the spot while she was watching television. She said, I'm going to Houston. And within 3 days, she was in Houston, volunteering for the Red Cross. She was leading a shelter for people who weren't healthy enough to evacuate. And she said, I guess I'm just doing what I would want someone else to do for me. She said, I hope that my 10-year-old daughter sees what her mother will do for other people. Now, again, I'm only talking to myself, but what did most of us do? We saw what was happening in Houston. Maybe we changed the channel. Maybe we sent a text message to donate $5, right? What's the difference between Kim Ann and us? How do we get out of our comfort zone? How do we realize, no, it's not that someone else is going to get the job done, that it has to be that the buck stops with us? How do we realize, you know what? Yes, it might be a little bit uncomfortable to reach out to another person, to try to impact another person, to inspire another person. Maybe they're going to say no. Maybe they're going to laugh at us, whatever it might be. But we have to get out of our comfort zone. We have to take that step. And that is really my message for everyone here. If we all, like I said, walk out of these doors and say, wow, what a weekend, and it ends there, we have failed. But together as a family, with a common mission, with a common purpose, knowing that we have each other to depend on, we have each other to cheer each other on, we have our branch leaders, and we have Project Inspire, and we have all these amazing things about Aish Torah to be right behind us. We all just have to think about what is that one step that can get me out of my comfort zone. What's one thing that I can commit to do when I walk out of these doors before I get to the buffet? One thing that we can all commit to do to help the Jewish people, to connect a person to the beauty of Judaism, to think about the state of the Jewish people, how many Jews are not connected, but even more importantly, to be on fire. The Aish of Torah, that we're on fire because we are so inspired by being Jewish, by being part of the Jewish people, by being part of Aish of Torah. We're so on fire that we have to spread that to other people. That's the mission of this weekend. That's the message of this weekend. And I ask us all just to take a minute, a couple minutes as we walk out and decide how we can get out of our comfort zone to join the mission of this family and make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Just a reminder, final checkout today is 12:45. Mincha is going to be right here in this ballroom as soon as I conclude here. Again, your hard keys, please return them. Lunch is on your way out to the garage. Thank you all for joining us this weekend. We look forward for you to bring your friends and join us again here next year. Thank you.